What if the woman everyone called homeless was the only person a billionaire could never forget? Mom, that's him. The little girl's voice was soft, but in the middle of the crowded hotel ballroom, it felt louder than anything else. Ryan Carter froze. Crystal chandeliers shimmered above him. Wealthy guests laughed, glasses clinked, cameras flashed. But none of it mattered anymore, because standing near the entrance, dressed in worn clothes, holding her daughter's hand, was the woman he hadn't been able to stop thinking about. And the girl was staring right at him. "You look sad again," she said gently. The room went silent. People began to whisper. Security started moving closer. No one understood why one of the most powerful men in the city had suddenly gone pale, staring at a homeless mother and her child like they had just changed his entire world. Before we continue, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there. And don't forget to subscribe, because this story might change the way you see people forever. Because what happened next, no one in that room was prepared for. Ryan Carter had built his life on control. Every decision, every investment, every move he made was calculated with precision. In the world of high-stakes real estate and luxury hospitality, that was how men like him survived and dominated. His name carried weight across continents, whispered in boardrooms and printed in bold across financial headlines. To the public, he was the embodiment of success, composed, disciplined, untouchable. But beneath the tailored suits and polished image, there was a silence no one ever spoke about. It followed him everywhere. On this particular evening, Ryan sat in the back seat of his black luxury car, the city lights of downtown Chicago flickering across the tinted windows. His driver moved smoothly through traffic while Ryan reviewed documents on his tablet. Numbers, projections, contracts tied to a major redevelopment project that would soon reshape an entire district. A hotel. Another one. Bigger. More exclusive. More profitable. "Sir, we're approaching the final stop," the driver said quietly. Ryan didn't respond immediately. His eyes drifted away from the screen, landing on something outside. A grocery store. At first it was nothing unusual, just another late-night stop for people finishing their day. But then he noticed her. A woman stood near the edge of the sidewalk, her coat too thin for the cold, her posture tired but upright. Beside her was a young girl, no older than 8, clutching her hand. They weren't begging. They weren't causing trouble. They were just there. Ryan's gaze lingered longer than it should have. "Pull over," he said suddenly. The driver hesitated for a brief second before obeying. The car eased to the side of the street. Ryan stepped out, the cold air brushing against his face. His presence alone turned a few heads. His suit, his watch, the unmistakable aura of wealth, but he ignored it. His attention was fixed on the woman and the child. Up close, he could see more. The woman's name, though he didn't know it yet, was Olivia Brooks. Her hair was pulled back loosely, strands falling out in exhaustion. Her face carried the kind of quiet strength that didn't come from comfort, but from survival. Her hands, though slightly trembling from the cold, were steady as she adjusted the scarf around the little girl's neck. The girl, Lily, looked up at her mother and smiled. Not a forced smile, a real one. "Are you hungry?" Olivia asked gently. Lily shook her head, though her eyes flickered briefly toward the store behind them. "I'm okay, Mom," she said. Ryan felt something tighten in his chest. He had seen poverty before. He had funded charities, signed checks, visited programs. But this This was different. There was no performance here, no cameras, no speeches, just reality. He stepped closer without fully realizing it. Olivia noticed him immediately. Her body stiffened, instincts sharpening. She shifted slightly, positioning herself protectively between Ryan and her daughter. "Can I help you?" she asked cautiously. Her voice wasn't rude. It wasn't submissive either. It was measured, guarded. Ryan paused. For a man who negotiated billion-dollar deals without hesitation, he found himself searching for the right words. "I was just passing by," he said. It sounded weak even to his own ears. Olivia gave a small nod, not convinced but unwilling to escalate. She turned her attention back to Lily. Ryan should have left. There was no reason for him to stay, no strategic value, no benefit. But he didn't move. Instead, something unexpected happened. Lily stepped forward. "Do you want this?" she asked. Ryan blinked, caught off guard. In her small hand was a piece of bread, slightly wrapped in paper, clearly saved for later. Olivia's eyes widened. "Lily, it's okay," Lily insisted softly. Then she looked back at Ryan. "You look like you didn't eat." The world seemed to pause. For a moment, Ryan didn't breathe. No one had ever spoken to him like that. Not employees, not business partners, not strangers, and certainly not a child who had almost nothing, offering him something anyway. "I'm fine," he said quietly. But Lily didn't pull her hand back. "You can take it," she said. "We can share." Ryan stared at the bread. It wasn't about the food. It was about what it meant. He slowly reached out, not to take it, but to gently close her fingers around it again. "You should keep it," he said. Lily frowned slightly. "But you might need it later." Olivia watched the exchange, something shifting in her expression. Suspicion softened, just a little. "Thank you," Ryan added, his voice lower now. Lily smiled again, brighter this time. "You're welcome." That should have been the end of it. A brief encounter, a forgotten moment. But Ryan didn't walk away. Instead, he stood there for a second longer than necessary, studying them, trying to understand why this felt different. Olivia met his gaze. There was no admiration in her eyes, no recognition, no expectation. Just quiet strength. "Have a good night," she said. Ryan nodded. "You too." He turned and walked back toward the car, the sound of the city rushing back in around him. The driver opened the door, but Ryan didn't get in immediately. He glanced back. Olivia and Lily were already walking away, disappearing into the dimly lit street. Something inside him resisted. "Sir?" the driver prompted. Ryan finally stepped into the car. "Drive," he said. The vehicle pulled away, blending back into traffic, but Ryan didn't return to his tablet. He didn't think about the hotel project, the contracts, or the millions on the line. All he could see was a little girl offering him her last piece of bread, and the look in Olivia's eyes. Unafraid, unimpressed, unbroken. For the first time in a long time, Ryan Carter felt something he couldn't calculate, something he couldn't control. And as the city lights blurred past him, one question echoed in his mind. Why couldn't he stop thinking about them? Ryan Carter did not believe in coincidences. In his world, everything had a reason. Every outcome traced back to a decision. Every opportunity born from calculation. Luck, fate, destiny. Those were words people used when they didn't understand the mechanics behind success. And yet, as his car disappeared into the flow of traffic that night, he couldn't explain why his thoughts refused to move on. He had meetings scheduled the next morning, contracts waiting for his approval, investors expecting answers. But none of it held his attention. "Turn around," Ryan said suddenly. The driver glanced at him through the rearview mirror. "Sir?" "Go back," Ryan repeated, calmer this time. The car slowed, then made a careful turn at the next intersection. By the time they reached the grocery store again, the sidewalk was empty. Ryan stared through the window, his jaw tightening slightly. They were gone. For a brief moment, something unfamiliar flickered in his chest. Disappointment. He leaned back in his seat, exhaling slowly. "It's fine," he said, more to himself than to the driver. "Drive." But the next morning, he found himself distracted again. Halfway through a meeting with executives discussing the hotel redevelopment, Ryan's pen stopped moving. "And if we finalize the permits by next quarter, we can begin Phase 1 construction," Mr. Bennett was saying, pointing at a series of projections. Ryan didn't respond. "Mr. Carter?" Bennett pressed. Ryan blinked, refocusing. "Continue." But even as the presentation went on, his mind drifted. The bread. The way the girl had looked at him, not with fear, not with admiration, just simple concern. And the woman. Olivia. Though he still didn't know her name. "Sir?" Bennett's voice pulled him back again. "Do you approve the proposal?" Ryan paused, then set his pen down. "I'll review it later," he said. That alone was unusual. Ryan never delayed decisions. The room shifted slightly, executives exchanging quick glances. But no one questioned him. They knew better. After the meeting, Ryan stood by the window of his office, overlooking the city below. Thousands of people moving through their lives, some successful, some struggling, some invisible. "Sir," his assistant said from behind him, "your next appointment, cancel it." She hesitated. "Cancel all of them?" Ryan didn't turn around. "For today." A brief pause. "Yes, sir." Within minutes, his schedule was cleared. Ryan picked up his coat and left the building without another word. This time, he didn't take the car all the way. He had the driver stop a block away from the grocery store. "I'll walk," Ryan said. The driver nodded. Ryan stepped onto the sidewalk, blending into the flow of pedestrians. Without the car, without the immediate presence of luxury, he became just another man in the city. Well-dressed, yes, but no longer untouchable. He reached the store, and this time, he saw them. Olivia sat on a low concrete ledge near the side of the building, a paper cup of cheap coffee in her hands. Lily was beside her, drawing something on a small piece of cardboard with a dull pencil. Ryan slowed his steps. For a moment, he simply watched. Olivia looked exhausted, but alert. Always aware of her surroundings. Lily, on the other hand, was focused entirely on her drawing, her small tongue peeking out slightly in concentration. Ryan approached. Olivia noticed him first. Her eyes narrowed slightly, not in hostility, but in recognition. "You again," she said. Ryan nodded. "I was in the area." A faint hint of skepticism crossed her face. "Of course you were." Ryan almost smiled. Lily looked up. Her face lit up instantly. "It's you!" she said, standing up quickly. You didn't take the bread. Ryan crouched slightly to her level. I told you to keep it. Lily held up the same piece, now carefully wrapped again. I saved it. Ryan hesitated. You don't have to do that, he said gently. Lily shrugged. It's okay. We share things. Olivia watched quietly, her grip tightening slightly around the coffee cup. You don't need to talk to us, she said, her tone firm but not unkind. People usually don't come back. Ryan stood back up. I'm not most people. Olivia raised an eyebrow. No, you're not. There was a pause, the kind that could either end a conversation or begin one. Ryan made a decision. Would you like something to eat? He asked. Olivia's expression hardened slightly. We're fine. Ryan didn't push. Instead, he glanced toward the store. Then maybe I am. Olivia frowned slightly, confused. Ryan continued. And I'd prefer not to eat alone. Silence. Lily looked between them. Mom? Olivia exhaled slowly. It wasn't about pride anymore. It was about reading intent, and something about this man didn't feel dangerous. Fine, she said. But we're not taking charity. Ryan nodded. Understood. They walked into the store together. Ryan let Olivia choose the food. Nothing excessive, just simple, practical items. Bread, soup, a small carton of milk. Lily added one small chocolate bar at the last second, looking at her mother for approval. Olivia hesitated. Ryan spoke quietly. It's okay. Olivia gave a small nod. At the register, Ryan paid. Without comment. They stepped outside again, finding a quieter spot along the building. For a few minutes, they ate in silence. Then Lily spoke. I saw you before, she said suddenly. Ryan looked at her. When? Lily tilted her head, thinking. A while ago, in the park. Ryan frowned slightly. I don't remember. You were sitting by yourself, Lily continued. You looked really sad. Olivia glanced at her daughter, surprised. I gave you water, Lily added. You didn't say much. Ryan's breath caught slightly. The memory, faint, distant, began to surface. A park bench, a long day, a moment of stillness he had tried to forget. He looked at Lily again. You're sure that was me? Lily nodded confidently. I remember faces. Ryan didn't know what to say. Of all the cities he had traveled to, all the people he had passed, and somehow this child had crossed his path before, and he hadn't even noticed, until now. Olivia studied him carefully. For the first time, her expression softened, not out of trust, but curiosity. Who are you? She asked quietly. Ryan met her gaze, and for the first time, he didn't have an immediate answer. Ryan Carter held Olivia's gaze for a fraction longer than usual. The question lingered between them, simple on the surface, yet heavier than anything he had faced in a boardroom. Who are you? For years, the answer had always been the same. A name, a title, a reputation built carefully, piece by piece, until it became a shield no one could question. But standing there, on a cold sidewalk beside a woman who had nothing, and yet carried herself with more dignity than most people he knew, that answer suddenly felt insufficient. I'm Ryan, he said finally. Olivia didn't react. No recognition, no surprise, just a slow, measured nod. Just Ryan? She asked. He almost smiled. For now. Olivia studied him for another moment, as if weighing something unspoken. Then she looked down at Lily, who was finishing her chocolate bar with quiet satisfaction. We should get going, Olivia said. Ryan nodded. Of course. He didn't try to stop them. He didn't offer anything more. But as Olivia and Lily began to walk away, Ryan found himself stepping forward. Wait. Olivia paused. Ryan hesitated, then spoke carefully. Do you come here every day? Olivia's expression tightened slightly. That depends, she said. Why? Ryan chose his words with precision. I pass by this area often, he replied. It would be nice to know if I might see you again. There it was. Not a demand, not an offer, just a quiet admission. Olivia's guard didn't drop, but it shifted. We move around, she said. Nothing is guaranteed. Ryan accepted that. Understood. For a brief moment, none of them moved. Then Lily waved. Bye, Ryan. Ryan nodded. Goodbye, Lily. Olivia gave a small, almost imperceptible nod before turning and walking away, her hand firmly holding her daughter's. Ryan watched until they disappeared again. This time he didn't try to follow. But something inside him had already changed. Over the next few days, Ryan found himself returning to that same part of the city more often than he cared to admit. Sometimes he saw them. Sometimes he didn't. But on the days he did, the encounters were always the same. Simple, unplanned, real. They spoke about small things at first. The weather, the city, Lily's drawings. Then gradually, the conversations deepened. Olivia mentioned, almost in passing, that she used to work in healthcare. I was a nursing assistant, she said one evening, sitting on the same concrete ledge. Not a doctor, not anything important, but I liked it. What happened? Ryan asked. Olivia's eyes flickered briefly. Life, she said. Ryan didn't push. He understood that answer more than most. Another day, Lily showed him a drawing of 3 stick figures. That's me, Mom. And you, she said. Ryan looked at it carefully. You made me taller than I am. Lily giggled. You feel tall. Olivia shook her head slightly, but there was a softness in her expression that hadn't been there before. Ryan noticed it. And for reasons he couldn't explain, it mattered. Then came the day everything shifted. It started like any other. Ryan had just arrived when he noticed a small crowd forming near the entrance of a nearby cafe. Voices were raised, sharp, accusing. He moved closer instinctively, and then he saw them. Olivia stood near the door, her posture tense, Lily clutching her arm tightly. A man in a store uniform was pointing at them. You can't just hang around here, he said loudly. Customers are complaining. We're not bothering anyone, Olivia replied, her voice steady but strained. That's not what I heard, the man snapped. Someone said you were asking for money. That's not true, Lily said quickly. Stay out of this, the man shot back. Ryan's jaw tightened. He stepped forward, but stopped just short of intervening. Not yet. Olivia straightened slightly. We didn't ask anyone for anything, she said. We were just standing here. The man scoffed. Yeah, I've heard that before. A few people nearby were watching, whispering, judging. Lily looked around, her small face flushing with embarrassment. We didn't do anything wrong, she said, louder this time. The man shrugged. Maybe not, but you don't belong here. That was the moment. Ryan moved. "Is there a problem?" he asked, his voice calm, but carrying an authority that cut through the noise instantly. The man turned. His expression shifted the second he saw Ryan's suit, his posture, the unmistakable presence. "No, sir," he said quickly. "Just handling a situation." Ryan's eyes didn't leave him. "What situation?" The man hesitated. "These individuals were causing concern." Ryan glanced at Olivia, then at Lily, then back at the man. "I don't see a problem," Ryan said. The man forced a tight smile. "With all due respect, sir, we have to maintain a certain standard for our customers." There it was. Ryan felt something cold settle in his chest. "And what standard is that?" he asked. The man faltered slightly. Ryan stepped closer. "Because from what I can see," he continued, "they're doing nothing wrong." The silence grew heavier. The crowd shifted. Olivia looked at Ryan, not with gratitude, but with something more complicated. Warning. "Ryan," she said quietly, "it's fine." He didn't move. "It's not," he replied. Lily squeezed her mother's hand. "Mom?" Olivia exhaled slowly. Then she did something Ryan didn't expect. She stepped forward. "We're leaving," she said. The man nodded quickly. "Good." Ryan turned to her. "You don't have to." "Yes, we do," Olivia interrupted. Her voice was calm but firm. "We don't stay where we're not wanted." Ryan stared at her, at the strength in her words, at the quiet refusal to beg, to argue, to prove anything. Lily looked back at Ryan as they began to walk away. "They always do that," she said softly. Ryan watched them go, his hands tightening at his sides. The man behind him let out a small breath of relief. "Thank you, sir," he said. Ryan didn't respond, because in that moment, something inside him shifted again. Not just curiosity, not just interest, but something deeper, something that felt dangerously close to anger. And as he stood there, watching the place where Olivia and Lily had disappeared, he made a silent promise. No one would ever make them feel that small again. No one. But the question was, how far was he willing to go to keep that promise? Ryan Carter did not make impulsive decisions. Every move he made carried intention, layers of thought beneath even the smallest action. But the promise he had made to himself that day, the silent vow that Olivia and Lily would never be humiliated again, refused to fade into the background like everything else. It stayed, persistent, unsettling. And for once, Ryan did not try to ignore it. 2 days later, Olivia stood outside a large hotel, her fingers tightening slightly around the strap of her worn bag. The building rose above her, polished glass reflecting the morning light. People moved in and out through revolving doors. Business travelers, staff in crisp uniforms, guests who didn't look twice at anyone standing still for too long. Olivia hesitated. "Mom, this is the place?" Lily asked, looking up at her. Olivia nodded slowly. "I heard they were hiring," she said. "Temporary help? Cleaning? Kitchen work? Anything." Lily smiled. "You can do that." Olivia forced a small smile back. "I know I can," she said quietly. "The question is, will they let me?" She took a breath, then stepped forward. Inside, the lobby was everything she expected. Marble floors, soft lighting, the quiet hum of wealth. She felt the shift immediately. The way eyes glanced at her, then away. The subtle tightening in people's expressions. Not open hostility, but not acceptance either. At the front desk, a woman with a neat bun and a name tag, Grace Miller, looked up. "Can I help you?" Grace asked. Olivia kept her voice steady. "I heard you might be hiring for temporary positions." Grace's eyes flickered briefly, assessing. "We're always accepting applications," she said. "Do you have experience?" "Yes," Olivia replied. "Cleaning, kitchen prep. I used to work in healthcare too." Grace nodded, though her tone remained neutral. "Fill this out." She slid a form across the counter. Olivia took it, her fingers brushing the paper like it was something fragile. "Thank you." Lily stood quietly beside her, watching everything. Upstairs, in a private office overlooking the city, Ryan stood beside the window. Mr. Bennett, the hotel manager, stood across from him, reviewing a report. "Occupancy rates are improving," Bennett said. "If we maintain this pace, we'll exceed projections by the end of the quarter." Ryan didn't respond immediately. Instead, his attention drifted to the security monitor on the wall, a small detail most people would have ignored, but not him. There, on one of the screens, he saw her. Olivia, standing at the front desk, filling out an application. Ryan's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes sharpened. "Mr. Bennett," he said. "Yes, sir." "We're short-staffed in housekeeping, correct?" Bennett blinked slightly, caught off guard by the sudden shift. "Yes, temporarily." "Good," Ryan said. "We'll be hiring immediately." Bennett nodded. "Of course." Ryan turned slightly, his voice calm, controlled. "Anyone willing to work deserves the opportunity." Bennett didn't question it. He had learned long ago not to. By the afternoon, Olivia stood in a narrow hallway, holding a simple uniform in her hands. She had been hired, not with enthusiasm, not with warmth, but she had been given a chance. "That's your locker," Grace said, pointing. "You start in 10 minutes." Olivia nodded. "Thank you." Grace hesitated for a moment, then added, "Just do your job well. That's all that matters here." Olivia met her eyes. "That's all I intend to do." The work was harder than she expected. Long hours, constant movement, little rest. But Olivia didn't complain. She scrubbed floors, carried linens, cleaned rooms that looked like they belonged to another world entirely. And she did it all with quiet determination. Downstairs, Lily sat in a small corner near the staff break area, drawing again. Every now and then, Olivia would glance at her, making sure she was still there, still safe. Not everyone welcomed her. "You see her?" one staff member whispered to another. "She doesn't belong here." "Probably won't last a week," another muttered. Olivia heard them. She always did. But she didn't respond. She couldn't afford to. That evening, as the lobby filled with guests, a familiar figure stepped inside. Ryan Carter, dressed impeccably, commanding attention without asking for it. He walked through the space as if he owned it, because he did. But no one in the room except a very few knew that. Olivia stepped out of a side corridor, carrying a stack of folded towels. She didn't see him at first, but he saw her. Their eyes met, just for a second. Olivia froze slightly. Ryan gave the smallest nod. Nothing more. No recognition. No familiarity. Just acknowledgement. And then he kept walking. Olivia stood there for a moment longer, something unsettled in her chest. Why did it feel like he didn't belong to this place, and yet somehow controlled it? From across the lobby, another pair of eyes watched the exchange. Charlotte Hayes, elegant, poised, and dangerously observant. She had seen Ryan ignore powerful people without a second glance. And yet, he had looked at that woman. Twice. Charlotte's gaze shifted to Olivia, taking in the uniform, the posture, the quiet presence. A faint, cold smile touched her lips. "Interesting," she murmured. Later that night, Olivia finished her shift, exhaustion settling deep into her bones. She found Lily waiting, half asleep, but smiling when she saw her. "You did it," Lily said softly. Olivia knelt beside her, brushing hair away from her face. "We did it," she corrected. As they stepped outside into the cool night air, Olivia glanced back at the hotel. A place that could change everything, or break them completely. Across the street, Ryan stood near his car, watching them. Silent, thoughtful, determined. He had given her an opportunity. But now, something far more complicated was beginning to unfold. Because in a world like his, nothing stayed simple for long. And somewhere inside that building, someone had already started asking questions. The kind of questions that could destroy everything Olivia had just begun to build. The first week passed like a test Olivia Brooks never signed up for. Every morning began before sunrise. Every shift stretched longer than promised. Every hallway she cleaned seemed to reflect a version of a life she once believed she could have. A life that now felt impossibly distant. But she didn't complain. She couldn't afford to. Because for the first time in months, she had something steady. Not security, not comfort, but a foothold. And for Olivia, that was everything. "Faster," Mr. Bennett's voice snapped one afternoon. Olivia straightened slightly, holding a stack of fresh linens against her chest. "Yes, sir." Bennett didn't look at her directly. He rarely did. "You're behind schedule," he added. "Room 312 should have been finished 20 minutes ago." "I'm on my way there now." He sighed, as if her existence alone was inconvenient. "Just don't make this a habit." Olivia nodded again, even though the words sat heavy in her chest. Across the corridor, two other staff members exchanged glances. "Called it," one whispered. "She won't last." Olivia heard them. She always did. But she kept walking. Later that evening, as the hotel lobby quieted down, Olivia stepped out of the service elevator, her body aching from hours of work. Lily was waiting for her near the staff seating area, swinging her legs gently, a half-finished drawing resting on her lap. "You're late," Lily said, smiling anyway. "Busy day," Olivia replied, crouching beside her. "You okay?" Lily nodded. "I made something." She held up the drawing. 3 figures again. But this time, one of them was taller, broader. "Ryan." Olivia exhaled softly. "You really like drawing him?" Lily shrugged. "He listens." Olivia didn't respond right away, because the truth was, she had started noticing that too. That night, as Olivia stepped outside for a brief break, she found him leaning against the side of the building. Ryan. Not in a suit this time. Just a simple coat. Almost ordinary. "You work too hard," he said quietly. Olivia didn't look surprised to see him. "You come here too often," she replied. A faint smile touched Ryan's lips. "Maybe." There was a pause, the kind that had become familiar between them. "How's the job?" he asked. Olivia shrugged slightly. "It's work," That's not an answer. It's the only one that matters. Ryan studied her. You deserve better. Olivia's expression shifted, just slightly. Everyone thinks that, she said. But better doesn't just appear. Ryan stepped closer, but not too close. What if it could? He asked. Olivia shook her head immediately. I don't want anything handed to me, she said. Not like that. Ryan nodded. I know. And he did. That was the problem. He understood her too well, and still didn't know how to help without crossing a line she would never forgive. The next day, everything changed. It started with whispers, small at first, then louder. Olivia noticed it the moment she walked into the staff hallway. People stopped talking. Eyes followed her. And then came the voice. Well, look who's getting comfortable. Olivia turned. Charlotte Hayes stood near the end of the corridor, her posture flawless, her expression sharp. She didn't belong in that space, and yet, she stood there like she owned it. Olivia straightened slightly. Can I help you? Charlotte smiled, thin, cold. I was just curious, she said, stepping closer. How long does it usually take? Olivia frowned. For what? Charlotte's eyes flickered with something dangerous. To go from the streets to catching the attention of a very wealthy man. The hallway went silent. Olivia felt her pulse spike, but her face didn't change. I don't know what you're talking about. Charlotte let out a soft laugh. Of course you don't. A few staff members lingered nearby, pretending not to listen. But they were. Everyone was. You really think people haven't noticed? Charlotte continued. The way he looks at you? The way he keeps showing up? Olivia's jaw tightened. I'm here to work, she said. Are you? Charlotte tilted her head slightly. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're playing a much smarter game. Olivia stepped forward. I don't need to play games, she said quietly. Not with anyone. Charlotte's smile widened. Oh, I believe that, she replied. You wouldn't survive out there if you did. A ripple of quiet laughter moved through the hallway. Olivia felt it. Every glance, every assumption, every judgment. And then Charlotte delivered the final blow. Using your child, though, she said softly. That's a bold move. Lily. Something inside Olivia snapped. That's enough, she said, her voice low but firm. Charlotte raised an eyebrow. Or what? Before Olivia could respond, another voice cut through the tension. She said that's enough. Everyone turned. Ryan stood at the end of the corridor. His presence alone shifted the air. Charlotte didn't flinch. Ryan, she said smoothly. I didn't realize you were here. Ryan walked forward slowly, his gaze never leaving her. I was, he replied, and I heard everything. The silence deepened. Charlotte crossed her arms lightly. Then you understand my concern. I understand your assumptions, Ryan said, and they're wrong. Charlotte smiled again, but this time there was a flicker of irritation beneath it. Are they? She asked. Because it seems very convenient, don't you think? Ryan stopped a few steps away from Olivia, close enough to make a statement, but not enough to trap her. What's convenient, he said calmly, is how easily people confuse kindness with manipulation. Charlotte's expression hardened. And what would you call this? She pressed. Charity? Ryan didn't answer immediately. Instead, he glanced at Olivia, just for a second, then back at Charlotte. I would call it none of your business. The words landed like a weight, heavy, final. Charlotte held his gaze for a moment longer. Then she smiled again. "Of course," she said softly. "We'll see how long that lasts." She turned and walked away, her heels echoing down the hallway. The tension didn't disappear. It lingered, in the eyes of the staff, in the silence that followed. Olivia exhaled slowly. Then she looked at Ryan. "I didn't ask for that," she said. "I know," he replied. "That's the problem." Ryan didn't argue, because for the first time, he realized something he hadn't fully understood before. By stepping in, he hadn't protected her. He had made her a target. And as Olivia turned away, returning to her work without another word, one question settled heavily in his mind. Had he just made everything worse? The hallway incident didn't fade. It spread. By the next morning, Olivia could feel it before she even stepped into the building. Conversations paused a second too late. Eyes followed her a second too long. The air carried something heavier than before. Not just judgment, but certainty. People believed what they had been told. And worse, they wanted to believe it. Olivia tied her apron in silence, her movements calm, controlled. She had learned long ago that reacting only fed the fire. "Morning," Grace Miller said from behind the desk, her tone neutral. "Morning," Olivia replied. Grace hesitated, then added, "Just keep your head down today." Olivia gave a small nod. "I always do." But keeping her head down wasn't enough anymore. By midday, the whispers had turned into something sharper. "You hear she's been meeting him outside?" one worker murmured. "With the kid, too," another replied. "Makes it look more convincing." Olivia kept walking, kept working, kept breathing, but every word found its way under her skin. Ryan watched it unfold from a distance. He stood behind a tinted glass panel on the upper level, observing the lobby below. Olivia moved through her shift like nothing had changed, but he saw the difference. The way her shoulders held tension. The way her eyes avoided lingering in one place too long. The way people stepped aside, not out of respect, but suspicion. Ryan's jaw tightened. "Sir," Mr. Bennett said, stepping beside him, "we've had a few concerns raised by staff." Ryan didn't look at him. "About?" Bennett cleared his throat. "Professional boundaries. Optics. You understand." Ryan finally turned. His gaze alone was enough to make Bennett shift uncomfortably. "What I understand," Ryan said quietly, "is that you're allowing rumors to interfere with your staff's ability to work." Bennett forced a polite smile. "I'm simply trying to maintain order." "Then do your job," Ryan replied. Bennett nodded quickly. "Of course, sir." But Ryan knew that wasn't the end of it, because the damage had already been done. That evening, Olivia found a small envelope inside her locker. No name, no explanation, just a key card and a note. For temporary housing, no conditions. Her hand froze. She didn't need to ask where it came from. Ryan. For a brief moment, something inside her softened. A room, a bed, a door that locked, safety for Lily. But just as quickly, the feeling hardened into something else. Frustration, pride, anger. She closed the envelope. Outside, Lily waited on the same bench, swinging her legs slowly. "You're late," Lily said. Olivia sat beside her. "Sorry." Lily noticed the envelope. "What's that?" Olivia hesitated. "Nothing we're taking," she said. Lily frowned slightly. Why not? Olivia looked at her daughter carefully. Because, she said softly, when people give you things without asking, it usually means they expect something later. Lily tilted her head. Ryan doesn't. Olivia didn't answer, because she wasn't sure. Ryan stood across the street again, watching. When Olivia pulled the envelope out and then slid it back into her bag without opening it again, he understood immediately. Rejection. Not out of ingratitude, but out of something deeper. Respect. He crossed the street. Olivia, she looked up, then stood. You shouldn't do that, she said before he could speak. Ryan stopped. Do what? This, she said, holding up the envelope, trying to fix everything without asking me. Ryan exhaled slowly. It's not like that. It is, Olivia replied. Maybe not to you, but to me, it is. Lily looked between them, quiet. Ryan stepped closer, lowering his voice. I'm trying to help. I know, Olivia said, and that's the problem. Ryan frowned slightly. Helping is a problem? Helping without understanding is, she said. The words landed harder than anything Charlotte had said. Ryan didn't interrupt. Olivia continued. You think giving me a room solves this? She asked. It doesn't. It just changes how people see me. It makes everything worse. Ryan shook his head. You need a safe place. I need a fair chance, Rupta, she replied. Silence. Heavy, honest. Ryan looked at Lily. She was watching him, not with fear, but with hope, and that made it harder. I don't want you to struggle, he said quietly. Olivia's voice softened, but didn't break. I don't want to depend on you. Ryan held her gaze. Not even a little? Olivia hesitated. Just for a second. Then she shook her head. Not like this. Ryan nodded slowly. He understood. Or at least, he was beginning to. The next day, things escalated again. This time, not in whispers, but in accusation. Olivia had just finished cleaning a suite when Mr. Bennett stopped her in the hallway. We need to talk, he said. Olivia set the card aside. About what? Bennett crossed his arms. There's been a complaint. Olivia's stomach tightened. From who? That's not important. It is to me. Bennett sighed. A guest reported that you were behaving inappropriately. Olivia stared at him. That's not true. Bennett shrugged slightly. It's what was reported. Olivia's voice sharpened. Then check the cameras. Bennett didn't respond, and that was enough. You didn't, Olivia said quietly. We trust our guests, Bennett replied. And you don't trust your staff? Bennett's expression hardened. I trust what keeps this place running smoothly. Olivia felt the weight of it. This wasn't about truth. This was about convenience, about image, about removing a problem. Are you firing me? She asked. Bennett hesitated, then said, Not yet. But the meaning was clear. She was already being pushed out. Downstairs, Lily sat alone. For the first time, Olivia hadn't come back on time. The noise of the lobby felt louder. Strangers moved past her without noticing, and then she heard it. They're talking about your mom. Lily looked up. 2 staff members stood nearby, unaware she could hear them. She thought she could get close to him, one said. People like that always try, the other replied. Lily's hands tightened around her drawing. Her chest felt tight, confused, hurt. She didn't understand everything, but she understood enough. And as tears began to form in her eyes, one thought echoed in her mind. If being near Ryan was hurting her mom, then maybe he wasn't safe after all. By the time Olivia stepped out of the hallway, she already knew. The job was over. No official words had been said yet. No final decision announced. But she had lived through enough of life to recognize the moment when something fragile began to break. And there was no fixing it. She moved through the lobby with quiet steps, her face composed, her breathing steady. No one stopped her. No one spoke to her. But the looks were still there. They always were. Across the room, Lily sat on the same bench, her small hands gripping the edges of her drawing paper. When she saw her mother, she stood up quickly. "Mom?" Olivia knelt beside her. "It's okay," she said softly, brushing a strand of hair away from Lily's face. "We're going to leave soon." Lily hesitated. "Did something happen?" Olivia forced a small smile. "Just work things." Lily didn't look convinced, but she nodded, because she trusted her mother, even when things didn't make sense. From the far side of the lobby, Ryan watched. He had seen Bennett pull Olivia aside. He had seen the shift in her posture afterward. And he didn't need to hear the conversation to understand what had happened. This was exactly what she had warned him about. He stepped forward. "Olivia." She stopped, slowly, then turned. There was no anger in her expression, and somehow, that made it worse. "You should go," she said quietly. Ryan frowned. "What? You should go," she repeated. "Back to your world." Ryan took another step closer. "This is because of me." Olivia didn't deny it. "They didn't fire me yet," she said. "But they will." Ryan's voice hardened. "They won't." Olivia shook her head. "You still don't get it," she said. "Then explain it to me." Her eyes met his, tired, honest. "They don't need a reason," she said. "They just need an excuse. And now they have one." Ryan clenched his jaw. "I can fix this." Olivia's expression didn't change. "That's exactly what I'm afraid of." The words hit harder than anything else. Before Ryan could respond, another voice cut through the space. "Well, this is convenient." Charlotte Hayes. She approached slowly, her heels echoing against the marble floor, her posture as composed as ever. "I was just about to look for you," she said, glancing briefly at Olivia before returning her attention to Ryan. Ryan didn't move. "What do you want?" he asked. Charlotte smiled faintly. "Just to make sure everything is handled properly." Olivia exhaled softly. "I'm leaving," she said. "You don't have to worry about me anymore." Charlotte's smile sharpened slightly. "Oh, I'm not worried about you," she replied. "I'm worried about him." Ryan stepped forward, his voice low. "Say what you came here to say." Charlotte's eyes flickered between them. "You really don't see it, do you?" she said. "The way this looks." Ryan didn't respond. Charlotte continued. "A wealthy man, spending time with a homeless woman. Her child involved. Rumors spreading." She tilted her head. "It's not a good story." Olivia's hands tightened slightly at her sides. "It's not a story," she said. "It's my life." Charlotte gave a small, dismissive shrug. And yet, here we are. Ryan stepped closer to Olivia, not touching her, but close enough to make his position clear. Enough, he said. Charlotte raised an eyebrow. Is it? She asked. Because I have something you might want to hear. Ryan's gaze sharpened. Charlotte lowered her voice slightly, but not enough to keep others from noticing. The board is asking questions, she said. About your judgment. Ryan didn't react. They're concerned, she continued, that you're letting personal interests interfere with business decisions. A pause. Then she added softly, they're wondering who she is to you. Silence fell. Heavy, unavoidable. Ryan looked at Olivia. For the first time, truly looked. Not as someone he wanted to help, not as someone caught in a situation, but as someone whose presence had already changed him in ways he couldn't explain. And suddenly, the answer wasn't complicated anymore. I'll tell them, he said. Charlotte blinked slightly. Tell them what? Ryan turned back to her. Exactly who she is to me. Olivia's breath caught. Ryan. But he didn't stop, because something inside him had already crossed a line he could never go back from. You want the truth? He said. Charlotte's smile faded. Ryan's voice remained calm. But this time, it carried something undeniable. Authority, finality. I own this hotel, he said. The words landed like a shockwave. The room didn't react immediately, because it took a moment for people to process what they had just heard. Charlotte's expression froze. You? Yes, Ryan interrupted. And not just this one. He stepped closer. So if the board has questions, he continued, they can bring them to me directly. Charlotte stared at him. For the first time, her composure cracked. You've been hiding this, she said. Ryan didn't deny it. Olivia stood still, completely still, her mind racing. Every conversation, every moment. Every time she thought she understood him. All of it. Shifting. You lied, she said quietly. Ryan turned to her. I didn't lie. You didn't tell the truth. He didn't argue. Because she was right. Olivia let out a slow breath. I thought, she began, then stopped. She shook her head. It doesn't matter what I thought. Lily stepped closer, her small hand reaching for her mother's. Mom. Olivia looked down at her, then back at Ryan. Her voice didn't rise, didn't break. But it carried something deeper than anger. You don't get to decide what's best for us, she said. Ryan's expression softened. I know. Do you? She asked. Because if he did, he wouldn't have done this here. Not like this. Not in front of everyone. Not in a way that turned her life into something public. Something exposed. Something she couldn't control. Ryan didn't have an answer. And that silence said everything. Olivia took Lily's hand. We're leaving, she said. Ryan stepped forward instinctively. Olivia, wait. But she didn't. She walked past him, through the lobby, through the eyes that now watched her with a completely different kind of attention. Not pity, not dismissal, but something else. Something heavier. And as the doors closed behind her, Ryan stood there, unmoving. Because in that moment, he understood something he had been avoiding. Revealing the truth hadn't fixed anything. It had only made everything more complicated. And somewhere behind him, Charlotte's voice returned, quieter now, but sharper than ever. "Well," she said softly, "that should make things interesting." Ryan didn't turn around, because his focus was already gone. Out the door, with the only two people who had ever made him question everything he thought he knew. And for the first time in years, Ryan Carter had no control over what would happen next. The night of the charity gala arrived with a kind of brilliance that hid everything beneath it. Crystal chandeliers glowed like constellations. A live string quartet filled the grand ballroom with soft, elegant music. Wealthy donors, executives, and politicians moved through the space in tailored suits and glittering gowns, exchanging smiles that felt rehearsed. To them, it was another evening of influence, another night to be seen. But for Ryan Carter, it felt like standing in a room that no longer belonged to him. He stood near the center of the ballroom, glass untouched in his hand, his expression composed, but distant. "Ryan," Mr. Bennett approached, his tone careful. "Everything is ready. Press is in position. We'll begin the speeches in 10 minutes. Ryan nodded without looking at him. "Good." Bennett hesitated. "Sir," about earlier this week, Ryan finally turned. "Not tonight." Bennett swallowed. "Of course." As Bennett stepped away, Ryan's gaze drifted across the room. Hundreds of people, powerful people, important people. And yet, none of them were the ones he was looking for. Across the city, Olivia Brooks stood outside the same hotel. She hadn't planned to come. She had promised herself she wouldn't. But when the shelter manager mentioned that her final payment hadn't been processed and that she might need to collect it in person, she had no choice. "We'll just go in, get what we need, and leave," Olivia said quietly. Lily nodded, holding her hand tightly. The hotel looked different tonight. Brighter, more intimidating, more distant. Olivia took a breath. "Stay close to me." They stepped inside. The moment they entered, everything shifted. The music, the conversations, the atmosphere. It didn't stop, but it changed. People noticed. Not loudly, not openly, but subtly. A homeless woman, a child. In a room like this, it didn't fit. "Excuse me," Olivia said to a staff member near the entrance. "I need to speak to someone about—" Before she could finish, another voice cut in. "Well, look who decided to come back." Olivia froze. Charlotte Hayes stepped forward from the crowd, her expression perfectly composed, but her eyes cold. "I thought you understood the message," Charlotte said. Olivia straightened slightly. "I'm not here for anything except my paycheck." Charlotte smiled faintly. "Of course you are." Lily squeezed her mother's hand. "We're just leaving after," she said softly. Charlotte's gaze flickered down to her, then back to Olivia. "You shouldn't be here," she said. Olivia's voice didn't waver. "I have every right to be here." Charlotte tilted her head. "Do you?" A few nearby guests began to notice the exchange. Whispers started. Phones subtly raised. This was no longer private, and Charlotte knew it. "Security," she said calmly. Two guards approached almost immediately. Olivia felt Lily's grip tighten. "I'm not causing any trouble," Olivia said. "I just need—" "Ma'am," one of the guards interrupted. "We're going to have to ask you to leave." Lily stepped forward. "She didn't do anything," she said. The guard didn't respond. Charlotte watched, satisfied. "Please," Olivia said, her voice lower now. Just let me talk to someone. But the room had already decided. Eyes watched, judged, dismissed. Lily's voice broke through again. Stop! For a moment, the entire space seemed to hold its breath. Because in that moment, a small child was the only one willing to speak. You're being mean, Lily said, her voice trembling but loud enough to carry. My mom didn't do anything wrong. No one answered. No one moved. And that silence was louder than anything else. From across the room, Ryan heard it. He didn't see them at first. But he heard her voice, and something inside him snapped into place instantly. He turned, and there they were. Olivia, Lily, surrounded, cornered. Ryan didn't hesitate. He moved, straight through the crowd, ignoring the conversations, ignoring the looks, ignoring everything except the two people at the center of it all. The music faded into the background. The room seemed to shift as people noticed his movement, because when Ryan Carter moved with purpose, people paid attention. He stopped just a few feet away. Step back, he said. His voice wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be. The guards froze. Charlotte's expression flickered. Ryan, I said step back. This time there was no mistaking it. Authority, control, the kind that didn't ask for permission. The guards stepped away, slowly, reluctantly. The room fell silent, completely silent. Ryan stepped forward, positioning himself between Olivia and everyone else. A clear line, a clear message. No one touches them, he said. Charlotte forced a smile. You're making a scene. Ryan didn't look at her. They were already making one, he replied. Olivia stared at him, her expression unreadable. You shouldn't have come, she said quietly. Ryan turned to her. And let this happen? He asked. Olivia didn't answer, because she didn't have one. Lily looked up at Ryan. You came, she said. Ryan softened, just slightly. Of course I did. Behind him, the crowd shifted. Whispers turned into something louder. Confusion. Recognition. Understanding. Because slowly, people were beginning to realize who he was. Charlotte noticed it too, and for the first time, her confidence faltered. You're going too far, she said, her voice tighter now. Ryan finally turned to face her. No, he said calmly. I'm just getting started. The words sent a ripple through the room, because everyone could feel it. Something was about to change. Something bigger than a misunderstanding, bigger than a rumor. Ryan looked around, at the faces watching, at the people who had said nothing, done nothing, allowed everything. And then he spoke, not to Olivia, not to Charlotte, but to everyone. They're not leaving. Silence, heavy, unavoidable. Charlotte's voice came out sharp. You don't get to decide that. Ryan's gaze locked onto hers. Yes, he said. I do. The room froze, because in that moment, the balance of power had shifted completely, and no one in that ballroom was prepared for what was about to happen next. The silence in the ballroom stretched until it felt almost unbearable. No music, no laughter. Just hundreds of eyes fixed on one man, and the two people standing behind him. Ryan Carter didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Ladies and gentlemen, he said calmly, turning to face the room, it seems there's been a misunderstanding. A ripple of unease moved through the crowd. Charlotte stepped forward, her composure strained but not broken. "Ryan, this isn't necessary." "It is," he interrupted. His tone remained steady, but something in it had changed. There was no hesitation now, no restraint. Ryan took a step toward the center of the ballroom, drawing everyone's attention fully onto him. "You've all been invited here tonight," he continued, "to support a project that claims to bring opportunity, dignity, and renewal to this city." He paused. "And yet, moments ago, you all stood by and watched a woman and her child be treated like they didn't belong." No one spoke, because no one could deny it. Ryan's gaze moved slowly across the room. "I want to make something very clear." He let the words settle before finishing. "This hotel belongs to me." The impact was immediate. Gasps, whispers, shock rippled through the crowd like a wave. Mr. Bennett went pale. Several board members exchanged panicked glances. And Charlotte, for the first time, lost control of her expression. "You," she began, but the words caught in her throat. Ryan didn't look at her. He didn't need to. "Not just this building," he continued, "but the entire redevelopment project tied to it. Every contract, every decision, every outcome." He turned slightly, his voice never rising, but cutting through the room with precision. "So when I say they're not leaving," he added, "I'm not asking." The silence deepened, heavy, unavoidable. Behind him, Olivia stood still, her mind racing, every piece of the past few days rearranging itself. The job, the sudden opportunity, the way doors had opened just enough. It had all been him. Ryan turned back to face Charlotte. "You wanted to know who she is to me," he said. Charlotte swallowed. "Yes," she replied, her voice tighter now. "I think everyone deserves to know." Ryan nodded slowly. "You're right." He glanced at Olivia, then at Lily, and something in his expression softened. Not weak, but real. "She's someone who never asked me for anything," he said. The room listened. Someone who showed more dignity standing outside in the cold than most people in this room have ever shown in their lives. A few guests shifted uncomfortably. Ryan continued. "She's someone who offered me food when she barely had any for herself." That caught attention. Real attention. Because that wasn't the story they expected. "And her daughter," Ryan added, his voice quieter now, "was the only person who looked at me and saw a human being." The words hung in the air, heavy, honest. Charlotte forced a laugh, though it sounded hollow. "That's very touching," she said. "But it doesn't change the fact that this looks..." "Like what?" Ryan cut in. Charlotte hesitated. Ryan stepped closer. "Like a man helping someone who needed it?" he pressed. "Or like a group of people deciding who belongs and who doesn't based on how they look?" Charlotte's lips parted, but no answer came. Because there wasn't one. Ryan turned back to the crowd. "You all pride yourselves on influence," he said. "On power. On being part of something bigger." He paused. "But power without compassion," he added, "is nothing." The room shifted again. Not with shock this time, but discomfort. Recognition. Ryan looked at Mr. Bennett. "Effective immediately," he said. "Any staff member who participates in harassment, discrimination, or rumor spreading will be removed from this property." Bennett nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. And that includes management." Bennett's face went even paler. Charlotte stepped forward again, her voice sharper now. "You're making a mistake," she said. "This isn't how business works." Ryan met her gaze. "This is exactly how it works," he replied. "Not in your world," she shot back. Ryan didn't flinch. "Then maybe your world needs to change." The tension snapped. Clean. Final. Charlotte looked around the room, searching for support. But none came, because no one wanted to stand against the man who owned everything around them. She straightened her posture, forcing her composure back into place. "This isn't over," she said quietly. Ryan didn't respond, because he didn't need to. Charlotte turned and walked away, her heels echoing sharply as she disappeared into the crowd. The room remained silent, but something had shifted. Completely. Ryan turned back to Olivia. For a moment, it was just the two of them, despite the hundreds of people watching, despite the weight of everything that had just happened. "I'm sorry," he said. Simple. Direct. Olivia's eyes searched his. "You should be," she replied. The words weren't cruel, but they weren't forgiving either. Ryan nodded slowly. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen like this." Olivia let out a quiet breath. "That doesn't change the fact that it did." Lily stepped closer, looking between them. "Are we in trouble?" she asked softly. Ryan's expression softened again. "No," he said. "Not anymore." Lily looked at her mother. Olivia hesitated, then gently squeezed her hand. "We're not in trouble," she confirmed. But the truth was more complicated than that. Because even though the room had turned in their favor, even though Ryan had defended them in front of everyone, the damage wasn't gone. It had just changed shape. Olivia looked around the ballroom, at the people who now watched her differently, not with dismissal, but with curiosity, with calculation, with attention she never asked for. And she realized something. Her life for Massot was no longer hers alone. Ryan had protected her. Yes. But he had also pulled her into a world she never wanted to be part of. She looked back at him. "This doesn't fix anything," she said. Ryan didn't argue, because deep down, he knew she was right. And as the music slowly began to return, as conversations cautiously resumed, one question remained between them. Had he just saved her, or changed her life in a way she could never escape? By morning, the story was everywhere. Headlines spread faster than facts. Billionaire confronts elite at charity gala. Homeless mother defended by hotel owner. Scandal or humanity? The story dividing a city. Ryan Carter had spent years controlling narratives. This time, the narrative controlled him. Olivia woke up to noise, not the usual early traffic or distant sirens. Voices. Louder. Closer. She sat up quickly, her instincts sharp. Lily stirred beside her, still half asleep on the narrow bed in the temporary shelter room. "Stay here," Olivia whispered. She moved toward the window and froze. Across the street, reporters, cameras, microphones, waiting. Her chest tightened. "They found us." "Mom?" Lily's voice came softly behind her. Olivia turned immediately, forcing calm into her expression. "It's okay," she said. "Just people being curious." But Lily saw it. The tension, the fear. "Are they here because of him?" Lily asked. Olivia didn't answer, because she didn't know how to. Across town, Ryan stood in his office, staring at multiple screens displaying news coverage. Every angle, every speculation. Some praised him. Others questioned him. A few twisted the story entirely. She planned it. She targeted him. She used her child. Ryan's jaw tightened. "Shut it down," he said. His assistant nodded immediately. "Already working on it, sir. Legal is contacting media outlets." Ryan shook his head. "Not just legally." He turned, his voice sharper now. "No interviews, no statements that expose her, no details about where she is, nothing." "Yes, sir." Ryan paused, then added, quieter, "She didn't choose this." By midday, Olivia couldn't leave. Every time she stepped outside, someone approached. "Ma'am, can you confirm? Is it true you knew who he was? Were you in a relationship?" "No comment," Olivia said, again and again, pulling Lily closer each time. Eventually, the shelter staff intervened, closing the front entrance and asking reporters to leave. But the damage was done. Olivia sat on the edge of the bed, her hands clasped tightly. "This is exactly what I didn't want," she said under her breath. Lily climbed beside her. "It'll go away," she said softly. Olivia forced a smile. "I hope so," but she knew better. Things like this didn't just disappear. Not when powerful people were involved. Not when the story was too interesting. That evening, there was a knock on the door. Olivia froze. Her first instinct was to ignore it. But then she heard the voice. "Olivia, it's me. Ryan." She hesitated, then stood. When she opened the door, he was alone. No car, no driver, no suit, just him. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "I know." "Then why are you?" Ryan exhaled slowly. "Because this is my fault." Olivia didn't argue. "Come in," she said quietly. He stepped inside. The room was small, simple, temporary, and yet it felt more real than anything in his world. Lily looked up from the corner. "Hi," she said. Ryan's expression softened. "Hi." There was a pause. Then Olivia spoke. "They won't leave," she said. "The reporters. I'm handling it." "How?" she asked. "You can't control everything." Ryan met her gaze. "No," he said, "but I can control enough." Olivia crossed her arms slightly. "That's what scares me." Ryan didn't respond immediately, because he understood. Finally. "I'm not here to control anything," he said. "I'm here to help." Olivia shook her head. "You already did," she said. "And now look where we are." The silence that followed was heavier than before. Ryan looked around the room, at the worn furniture, at the thin blankets, at the small space Lily had claimed with her drawings, and something shifted inside him again. Not guilt, not obligation, something deeper. "I can get you out of here," he said quietly. Olivia's expression hardened instantly. "No." "It's not charity," Ryan added quickly. It is," she cut in. Ryan stopped. "I don't want to be moved around like a problem," Olivia continued. "I don't want to disappear just because people are talking." Ryan nodded slowly. "I understand. Do you?" she asked. He met her eyes. "Yes." And this time, she believed him. A little. Later that night, after Ryan left, Olivia sat alone for a long time. Lily had fallen asleep beside her, one hand still resting on a small object she always kept close, a worn, folded handkerchief. Olivia had found it months ago in a donation bin. It wasn't valuable, just old, soft, faded with time. But Lily had kept it ever since, said it made her feel safe. Olivia reached over and adjusted it gently in Lily's hand. Then she leaned back, closing her eyes for a moment. Her thoughts were loud. Too loud. Ryan. The gala. The attention. The future. Everything felt uncertain. Unstable. Like standing on ground that could shift at any moment. The next day, something unexpected happened. A staff member from the shelter approached Olivia. "There's a program," she said. "New funding, healthcare training, job placement, support for single mothers." Olivia frowned slightly. "Since when?" "Since this morning." Olivia's heart skipped. "Who's funding it?" The woman hesitated. "Anonymous donor." Olivia didn't need to ask twice. That evening, Olivia went looking for Ryan. She found him outside the hotel, standing alone near the same spot they had first spoken. "You did this," she said. Ryan turned. "I didn't put my name on it." "That's not what I asked." Ryan held her gaze. "I wanted to help more than just you." Olivia studied him carefully. "Why didn't you tell me?" Ryan looked down briefly. "Because you wouldn't have accepted it." She didn't deny that. Silence settled between them again. But this time, it felt different. Less tense, more honest. Olivia took a slow breath. "You're not who I thought you were," she said. Ryan nodded slightly. "I know. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad one." Ryan didn't answer. Because he didn't know either. Behind them, unnoticed, Lily stood quietly near the corner of the building. She had followed her mother. In her hand, the small handkerchief shifted slightly in the wind. Ryan glanced at it, and something in his expression changed. Subtle, but unmistakable. Recognition. Faint, distant, but real. He took a step closer. "Where did she get that?" he asked. Olivia looked down. "The scarf?" she said. "I found it a long time ago. Why?" Ryan didn't answer immediately. Because suddenly, a memory was trying to surface. One he hadn't thought about in years. And as he stared at that small, worn piece of fabric, a single thought crossed his mind. Why does that look familiar? Ryan couldn't take his eyes off the handkerchief. The fabric was worn thin at the edges, the stitching faded, the color softened by years of use. To anyone else, it would have been meaningless. But to him, it wasn't. "Where did you say you found it?" Ryan asked again, his voice quieter now. Olivia glanced down at Lily, who was holding it loosely in her hand. "In a donation bin," she replied. "Months ago. Why?" Ryan didn't answer immediately, because something in his chest had tightened. A memory. Distant, but persistent. "My mother used to have one like that," he said slowly. Olivia frowned slightly. "A handkerchief?" Ryan nodded. "It wasn't expensive," he added, "but she kept it with her all the time." He reached out slightly, then stopped himself before touching it. "May I?" Lily looked up at her mother. Olivia hesitated, then gave a small nod. Lily handed it to him. Ryan held it carefully, as if it might fall apart. He turned it over, And then he saw it. A small, almost invisible marking stitched into one corner. A single letter. A. His breath caught. "It is," he whispered. Olivia watched him closely. "What?" she asked. Ryan looked up. "This belonged to her," he said. The air shifted, not dramatically, but deeply. Olivia's expression changed, not to shock, but to something more complicated. Understanding. "How?" she asked. Ryan shook his head slowly. "She used to volunteer," he said, "before she passed away. Quietly. No one knew. She would bring things to shelters, leave them there." Olivia felt something move inside her, something she couldn't quite name. "So this ended up with us," she said. Ryan nodded. "After all these years." Lily looked between them. "Was she nice?" she asked. Ryan's expression softened. "She was the kindest person I've ever known." Lily smiled slightly. "Then I'm glad I have it." Ryan handed it back gently. "Me too." For a moment, none of them spoke, because something invisible had just connected them. Not through money, not through circumstance, but through something older, something quieter, something real. But reality didn't stay quiet for long. The next morning, the story escalated again. This time louder, sharper, crueler. A new headline spread across every major outlet. "Billionaire's mystery woman faces questions about her past." Olivia stared at the screen in disbelief. "They're digging into my records," she said. Ryan's jaw tightened. "That shouldn't be possible." "They found something," Olivia said. Her voice didn't shake, but it came close. A report. An old eviction notice. Medical debt. A custody scare from years ago when she had nearly lost everything. Fragments of her worst moments, put together like a story she didn't recognize. "They're making it look like I'm unstable," she said quietly. Ryan stepped forward. "This is targeted." "Of course it is," Olivia replied. "You embarrassed the wrong person." Charlotte. They both knew it. Within hours, the pressure intensified. Calls, messages, requests for statements. The shelter received complaints, concerns, suggestions that Olivia might not be fit to stay, to raise her child, to be trusted. Lily overheard enough to understand. "Are they going to take me away?" she asked. Olivia dropped to her knees immediately. "No," she said firmly. "No one is taking you anywhere." But for the first time, there was fear in her voice. Ryan moved quickly. Legal teams, private investigators, media suppression. But Olivia stopped him. "No," she said. Ryan looked at her, confused. "No." "I'm not hiding," she continued. "I'm not letting them control this." Ryan hesitated. "They're not playing fair." "Neither is life," Olivia replied. Silence. Then she added, "I've been judged before. I survived it then. I'll survive it now." Ryan studied her, really studied her, and saw something he hadn't fully understood until that moment. She wasn't just strong. She was unbreakable. That afternoon, Olivia made a decision. She stepped outside, alone. Reporters rushed forward immediately. "Olivia, can you respond to, is it true that, are you using—" "Stop." Her voice cut through the noise. Clear, steady. They paused. Just enough. "My name is Olivia Brooks," she said. "And I'm not hiding. Cameras lifted, recording, waiting. I didn't ask for attention, she continued. I didn't ask for help. And I didn't ask to be part of your stories. Her eyes moved across the crowd. But I'm not ashamed of my life. Silence. Real silence. I've struggled, she said. I've made mistakes. I've lost things. But I've never stopped trying to give my daughter a better life. Lily stood just behind the door, watching, tears in her eyes. And if you think that makes me weak, Olivia added, her voice soft but firm, then you've never had to fight for anything that mattered. No one interrupted, because no one could. Ryan stepped forward, standing beside her, not in front, not protecting, but supporting, equal. I stand with her, he said simply. No speech, no explanation, just truth. The story changed, not instantly, but noticeably. Some reporters lowered their cameras, others shifted their tone, because strength, real strength, was harder to twist. Later that evening, as the noise finally began to settle, Olivia and Ryan stood alone again, this time closer than before, not physically, but emotionally. You didn't have to do that, Ryan said. I did, Olivia replied. He nodded. I'm glad you did. She looked at him, and for the first time, there was no distance, just honesty. Ryan, she said, if this is going to work. He listened. It has to be real, she continued. No secrets, no control, no fixing things behind my back. Ryan didn't hesitate. Agreed. A pause. Then Olivia asked the question that mattered most. Can you do that? Ryan looked at her, at Lily, at everything that had changed. I can try, he said. Olivia studied him for a moment longer, then nodded. Then maybe, she said softly, we can start over. Ryan's breath slowed, because those words meant everything, and as Lily stepped forward, slipping her hand into both of theirs, one thing became clear. This wasn't the end of the fight, but it was the beginning of something real, something neither of them had planned, and something neither of them could walk away from anymore. Time didn't heal everything, but it changed the way things felt. The headlines faded first, not completely, but enough that the cameras stopped waiting outside. The whispers lost their urgency, and the city moved on to its next story. For Olivia Brooks, that silence was a relief, but it was also unfamiliar. Because for the first time in a long time, she wasn't just surviving. She was building something. The apartment wasn't large, but it was theirs. A small living room, a narrow kitchen, 2 rooms that finally had doors that locked, windows that let in morning light instead of cold air. Olivia stood by the sink one early morning, watching Lily eat breakfast at the small table. Cereal, milk, nothing extravagant, but everything they hadn't had before. Mom, Lily said between bites, do we really get to stay here? Olivia turned, smiling softly. Yes, she said. We do. Lily beamed. Ryan stood near the doorway, watching quietly. He didn't interrupt. He didn't need to. Because moments like this weren't meant to be filled. They were meant to be felt. The arrangement had taken time. Careful conversations, clear boundaries. Ryan had insisted on transparency. Everything had to be in Olivia's name. Everything had to be documented. No hidden conditions. No silent control. At first, Olivia had resisted. But when she realized he meant it, not as a favor but as a foundation, she accepted. Not because she needed saving, but because she was ready to move forward. Her new job came next. Not handed to her. Not gifted. Earned. Dr. Elaine Foster had reviewed her background, her previous experience, and her determination to return to healthcare. "We don't need perfect," Dr. Foster had said. "We need people who don't give up." Olivia fit that perfectly. Now she worked in a community health center. Long hours, demanding cases, but meaningful, real. The kind of work that reminded her who she used to be and who she could become again. Ryan adjusted too. More than anyone expected. Board meetings were still there. Investments still mattered. But something in him had shifted. He no longer measured success the same way. And people noticed. "You've changed," Mr. Bennett said one afternoon during a meeting. Ryan glanced up from the reports. "In what way?" Bennett hesitated. "You're less focused on expansion." Ryan leaned back slightly. "Maybe I'm focused on something else." Bennett nodded slowly. He didn't ask what. He didn't need to. Grace Miller changed too. She had been one of the first to treat Olivia with distance. Now she greeted her with something closer to respect. "Good to see you," Grace said when Olivia stopped by the hotel one afternoon. "You too," Olivia replied. There was no tension now, no judgment, just understanding. Because sometimes people didn't change overnight, but they could change eventually. Not everyone did. Charlotte Hayes disappeared from the project quietly. No scandal, no public downfall. Just distance. The kind that followed people who pushed too far in the wrong direction. Olivia didn't ask about her, and Ryan didn't bring her up, because some chapters didn't need revisiting. The most important changes happened in the small moments. Evenings at the apartment, dinner on the table, Lily talking about school, laughing, drawing, living like a child again. Ryan sat at the table more often now, not as a guest, not as a visitor, but as someone who belonged. "Tell me about your day," he said one evening. Lily grinned. "I learned about planets." "Oh?" Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Which one is your favorite?" "Saturn," she said confidently. "Because of the rings." Ryan smiled. "Good choice." Olivia watched them quietly, not from a distance, but from a place of calm. Because for the first time, she wasn't waiting for something to go wrong. Their relationship didn't rush. It didn't need to. There were no grand declarations, no dramatic promises, just honesty, patience, respect. "Why me?" Olivia asked one night, standing by the window as the city lights flickered outside. Ryan stepped beside her. "I don't think it's about why," he said. "Then what is it about?" Ryan looked at her. "At some point," he said, "you stop asking why something matters, and you just accept that it does." Olivia considered that, then nodded, because she understood. Weeks turned into months. The past didn't disappear, but it lost its power. And in its place, something stronger grew. Not perfection, not fairy tale endings, but something real. One afternoon, Olivia stood outside the hotel again, the same place where everything had started. But it felt different now. Ryan joined her. "You come back here a lot," he said. Olivia smiled faintly. It reminds me, she replied. Of what? She looked at him. Of where I was, and how far we've come. Ryan nodded, then reached into his coat pocket. I've been meaning to give you this, he said. Olivia frowned slightly. What is it? He handed her a small envelope, simple, unmarked. Olivia opened it slowly. Inside was a key. Not to the apartment. Something else. What is this? She asked. Ryan's expression softened. It's not just a building, he said. It's a place we're creating, for women like you, for children like Lily. Olivia looked at him, her breath catching slightly. A place that doesn't turn people away, he continued. A place that gives them a chance, without judgment. Olivia's eyes filled, but she didn't look away. You're serious, she said. Ryan nodded. I've never been more serious about anything. Lily stepped between them, looking up. Can we go there? She asked. Ryan smiled. Soon. Olivia closed her hand around the key, not as something given to her, but as something she was now part of, something she helped create. And in that moment, standing where everything had once felt impossible, Olivia realized something. She hadn't been saved. She had risen. And Ryan had simply chosen to walk beside her. The grand reopening of the hotel no longer felt like a display of power. It felt like a promise. The same building that had once been a place of quiet judgment, hidden tension, and whispered accusations now stood transformed, not in its architecture, but in its purpose. Banners hung across the entrance. Community Partnership Initiative. Housing, opportunity, dignity. Guests arrived again, but this time they weren't just investors and executives. They were teachers, social workers, single mothers, children, people who had once stood outside places like this, now walking through the front doors. Ryan Carter stood near the entrance, greeting guests, not as a distant figure, but as someone present, engaged, and attentive. He wore a suit, as always, but something about him was different, less guarded, more human. Across the room, Olivia Brooks stood beside Dr. Elaine Foster, reviewing a list of attendees. Her posture was calm, confident, unshaken. She wasn't hiding anymore. She wasn't being observed. She was part of this. Ready? Dr. Foster asked. Olivia exhaled softly. No, she admitted. Dr. Foster smiled. Good. That means it matters. Olivia nodded. Because it did. More than anything she had done before. Lily stood near the front of the stage, her small hands clasped together, her eyes scanning the room. She spotted Ryan first, then her mother, and her face lit up. Because she understood something, even if she couldn't fully explain it. This place was different, and somehow they had helped make it that way. The room slowly filled, seats taken, conversations quieted. The event began. Mr. Bennett stepped onto the stage first, his voice steady, professional. Welcome, he said. Tonight, we celebrate not just the reopening of a building, but the beginning of something new. He spoke about the program, the funding, the partnerships. But when he finished, there was a pause, because everyone knew that wasn't the real story. Ryan stepped forward next. The room responded instantly. silence, respect, attention. But Ryan didn't start with numbers, or achievements, or plans. He looked out at the audience, then spoke. "This place used to represent success," he said, "but only for a certain kind of person." A few people shifted in their seats. Ryan continued, "And I believed that was enough." He paused, then added, "I was wrong." The words carried weight, because they weren't expected. He glanced toward Olivia, just briefly, then back at the audience. "Success without empathy creates distance," he said, "and distance creates blindness." The room listened, truly listened. "I met someone who showed me that," Ryan continued. "Not through words, but through how she lived." Olivia felt her breath slow. She hadn't expected this. Not like this. She never asked for anything, Ryan said. She didn't try to impress anyone. She didn't try to belong. Another pause. She simply refused to lose who she was. The silence deepened, because everyone understood. Now. Ryan stepped slightly to the side. "Olivia," he said. Her name, spoken clearly, without hesitation. The room turned, all eyes on her. Olivia stood still for a moment, then took a step forward, then another. Each step felt heavier than the last, but she didn't stop. When she reached the stage, she turned to face the audience. Hundreds of faces, watching, waiting, the same kind of room that once made her feel invisible. Now, completely focused on her. Olivia exhaled slowly, then spoke. "My name is Olivia Brooks," she said. Her voice didn't shake. "I've stood outside buildings like this before," she continued, "and I've been told, in ways both quiet and loud, that I didn't belong." A few heads lowered, because they remembered. "I've been ignored," she said. "Judged, dismissed, not because of who I am, but because of what I didn't have." She paused, let the words settle. "But none of that changed who I am," she added. Her eyes moved across the room. "I'm not a story," she said. "I'm not a headline, and I'm not something to fix." Ryan watched her, not as a speaker, not as someone standing on a stage, but as the person who had changed everything. "I'm a mother," Olivia continued. "I'm someone who kept going when it would have been easier to stop, and I'm someone who believes that every person deserves to be seen." The room was completely silent. No whispers, no movement, just attention. "And this place," she said, glancing around, "should be for everyone, not just the people who can afford to walk through the front door." A few people wiped their eyes. Others sat still, absorbing every word. Lily stood near the stage, watching her mother with odd eyes. Because this was who her mother really was. Not just strong, but fearless. Ryan stepped forward again, standing beside Olivia. But this time he didn't lead. He stood with her. Equal. "And that's why this exists," he said. He gestured to the room. "To create something that doesn't exclude," he continued. "Something that doesn't judge before it understands." He reached into his pocket, then turned slightly toward Olivia. "I have one more thing," he said. Olivia looked at him, curious. He held out a small box, simple, not extravagant, but meaningful. Olivia hesitated, then took it, slowly opening it. Inside was a key, but not just any key, a key with a small engraving. Brooks Community Center. Olivia's breath caught. Ryan spoke quietly, but clearly enough for the room to hear. "It's not mine," he said. "It's yours." The words echoed, not as ownership, but as trust, as recognition, as belonging. Olivia looked at him, her eyes filled, but steady. "You didn't have to do this," she said. Ryan shook his head. "I did." A pause. Then he asked, softly, only for her, "Will you build it with me?" The room didn't hear the question, but they felt it. Because something in that moment shifted again. Not power, not status, but something deeper. A future. Olivia looked at the key, then at Ryan, then at Lily. And in that moment, the answer wasn't complicated, but it wasn't spoken yet. Because some answers were too important to rush. Olivia didn't answer right away. The room held its breath, not because they heard Ryan's question, but because they felt something important unfolding. She looked down at the key resting in her hand, then at Lily, then back at Ryan. For a moment, everything else faded. The lights, the people, the past, all of it. "What you're asking," Olivia said quietly, "isn't small," Ryan nodded. "I know." "It's not just a building," she continued. "It's responsibility. It's people. It's lives." Ryan didn't interrupt, because he understood. Finally. "I don't want to be a symbol," Olivia added. "I don't want to stand in front of something that looks good on paper but doesn't change anything." Ryan met her gaze. "Then don't," he said. Olivia frowned slightly. "Don't let it become that," Ryan continued. "Make it real. Make it honest. Make it something that actually helps people." The words settled between them, not as pressure, but as possibility. Lily stepped closer, her small voice breaking through the moment. "Mom, we can help people like us." Olivia looked down at her, and everything became clear. Not because it was easy, but because it mattered. She turned back to Ryan. "I won't do it for you," she said. Ryan shook his head. "I wouldn't ask you to." "I'll do it for them," she added. Ryan nodded. "And for yourself." Olivia took a breath, then closed her hand around the key. "Then yes," she said. The word wasn't loud, but it carried. And in that moment, something real began. The months that followed didn't look like a fairy tale. There were no perfect transitions, no effortless success. There were challenges, setbacks, long nights, and difficult decisions, because building something meaningful was never simple. The Brooks Community Center started as an idea, then became a plan, then a construction site filled with workers, volunteers, and people who believed in what it could become. Olivia was there every step of the way, not as a figurehead, but as a leader. She interviewed staff, met with families, listened to stories that sounded painfully familiar, and made sure one thing remained true: no one would be turned away. Ryan stayed involved, but differently. He didn't control. He didn't override. He supported, quietly, respectfully. He learned to step back when needed, to listen more than speak, to trust Olivia's judgment. And in doing so, he changed. Not in the way people expected, but in the way that mattered. Lily changed too. School became her world again. Friends, homework, laughter. She still carried the small handkerchief with her, still kept it close. But now, it wasn't a reminder of survival. It was a reminder of connection, of how everything had come together in a way no one could have planned. The opening day of the center wasn't grand. No chandeliers, no formal gala, just people, families, children running through the halls, mothers sitting together, talking quietly, volunteers organizing supplies, real life, real need, real hope. Olivia stood near the entrance, watching it all. Ryan stepped beside her. "It's everything you said it should be," he said. Olivia nodded. "It's everything it needed to be." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Ryan spoke again. "You've done something incredible." Olivia shook her head slightly. "We did," she said. Ryan looked at her and smiled. Across the room, Lily waved at them. "Come see this," she called. They walked over together. A group of children sat around a table, drawing. One of them held up a picture. 3 figures. A woman, a man, a child, standing in front of a building. "Who's that?" Ryan asked. The child pointed. "That's her," they said, nodding toward Olivia. "And that's you." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "And the third one?" The child smiled. "That's all of us." Olivia felt something in her chest tighten, not with pain, but with something deeper, something full. Later that evening, as the center quieted down, Olivia stepped outside. The air was calm, peaceful. Ryan joined her again. "You didn't just change your life," he said. "You changed a lot of others, too." Olivia looked out at the street. "I didn't do it alone." Ryan nodded. "No, but you started it." A pause. Then Olivia spoke. "You know, I used to think people like you lived in a completely different world." Ryan glanced at her. "And now?" Olivia smiled slightly. "Now I think the problem wasn't the world," she said. "It was the distance between them." Ryan considered that, then nodded. "Then maybe we're finally closing that distance." Olivia looked at him, and for the first time, there was no hesitation, no doubt, just certainty. "Yes," she said, "we are." Inside, Lily's laughter echoed softly. Outside, the city moved on, and somewhere between those two worlds, a new story had been written. Not about wealth, not about poverty, but about something far more important. Connection, understanding, and the simple truth that had been there all along. People are more than what they appear to be. True kindness doesn't come from wealth. It comes from understanding. Never judge someone by their appearance or their circumstances, because you never know their story. The strongest people are often the ones who have faced the hardest battles, and sometimes the smallest acts of compassion can change not just one life, but many. If this story touched you, comment where you're watching from and what time it is there. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories that remind us what truly matters.